Ciao and benvenuti from Amalfi, the Italian town that really needs no introduction. My maternal grandmother, Madeline Graziano, always told me that her father, Domenico Cioffi, was from Amalfi. When I visited Amalfi for the first time in 2017, I thought to myself, how can someone ever leave a place so beautiful that it looks as if it was kissed by God? She must have been wrong. There's no way he ever would have left this place. Years later, I started doing some digging and come to find out he was in fact from Amalfi. So today, I'm going to do some exploring in this beautiful seaside town and discover my roots. Andiamo. We are starting our journey to Amalfi in the same way that my great-grandfather started his journey to America, by boat. We are staying in Salerno. Salerno's about a 1-hour car ride away from Amalfi. However, we don't have a car, so we're going to take a ferry. Besides, what better way to see the Amalfi Coast than by boat?
The ferry company is called Travelmar, and a one-way ticket to Amalfi costs around 10 euros per person. It only takes a little more than 30 minutes, so that's very convenient.
On the boat from Salerno to Amalfi, you really get to appreciate the Amalfi Coast. You see the beautiful green hills, all the small cliffside towns with the beautiful, colorful buildings, the glistening blue water of the Mediterranean. It's really the best way to see the Amalfi Coast. Did you know that Amalfi was given its name after a lost love? According to Greek mythology, the son of Zeus, Hercules, fell in love with a beautiful nymph named Amalfi. He was so in love with her, and she returned his love. It seemed that they were destined to be together forever. But as the fates would have it, Amalfi died suddenly and very young. Hercules was devastated. He wanted to give her the best burial possible. He traveled to all 4 corners of the world, searching for the most beautiful place to bury his true love. He eventually stopped on the Campania coast when he reached these beautiful wild green hills where the sky meets the sea. He buried her body here, and on top of her tomb, he built a town called Amalfi.
Amalfi has a very long history. It goes as far back as 400 years after Christ. In 839, Amalfi declared itself a republic, joining the other 3 republics of Genova, Venezia, and Pisa. These 4 together formed the 4 maritime republics. In 1135, Amalfi was actually conquered by one of these other republics, Pisa. And 200 years later, Amalfi was heavily hit by a tsunami first and the plague a few years later. After all these terrible events, Amalfi was no longer the great power that it was when it was a maritime republic. And after that, the people living here were fishermen, craftsmen, or worked in agriculture. Many centuries later, at the time that Marissa's great-grandfather was born in Amalfi, people were still fishermen, craftsmen, and worked in agriculture, but that time was also the beginning of tourism in Amalfi. In fact, this town was one of the stops on the Grand Tour. The Grand Tour was a tour that many wealthy Europeans took that would last months, sometimes even years, and it would take them all over Europe, especially southern Italy, in the area of Napoli, and sometimes to Amalfi to visit this beautiful town.
If I had to imagine, my great-grandfather wouldn't even be able to recognize Amalfi today. Amalfi is no longer the simple fishing village that it was 100 years ago. The Amalfi Coast receives more than 5 million visitors every year. It's become a luxury destination where people from all over the world want to come. It's so expensive to stay in Amalfi that Davide and I decided to stay in Salerno. It was just too expensive to stay here. A part of me always wonders, though, if my great-grandfather stayed in Amalfi, would it be me in one of these beautiful apartments? I guess we'll never know. We are outside of the town hall in Amalfi, and here is where there is the anagrafe. And the anagrafe is where they store all of the birth certificates, the marriage records, and the death records of anybody who lives or lived in the town. Now, inside is where we will find my great-grandfather's birth certificate, but we don't actually need to find the paper birth certificate because I already have it. That's because I used an Italian website called antenati.cultura.gov.it. On that website, many Italian small towns and cities have actually digitalized a lot of the birth certificates, marriage records, and death certificates. So if you're doing this type of research, many times you can find it online. I was lucky. Amalfi has done an amazing job of digitalizing these records. Other towns, not so much. For example, my great-grandparents that were from Vittorio Veneto, or a great-grandmother that was from Priverno, they do not have many records digitalized. So it very often depends where your ancestors were from.
I'm trying to find information, by myself. There's actually so many data from decades ago down here. Volevamo un'informazione per quanto riguarda il certificato di residenza storico o di stato di famiglia storico. Parliamo di molto tempo fa, nato nel 1890.
Sì. Ti ricordi anche dove precisamente sei ad Amalfi? Sì. Allora, se mi dici il nome?
È Cioffi. E la data di nascita è sicuramente agosto, se mi ricordo bene 28 agosto, ma Cioffi Domenico. Se mi ricordo bene sul sito antenati.it c'erano 2 libri e in un libro c'era il nome ma l'altro no, quindi forse
esatto, quindi sì. Quello che voglio controllare anche.
Forse è questo qui.
Possibile anche che sia stato messo un anno prima o un anno dopo.
Sicuramente c'è, perché una
l'abbiamo anche visto.
Ma non so perché non è qui. Praticamente sul documento c'è il nome del padre e anche la madre, okay. E sono curiosa di sapere se c'è un modo di trovare più informazioni di loro.
Vabbè, magari ci lasciate anche un recapito, lo inviamo, magari.
Ok,
magari,
sì.
Perfetto.
Sì. Da dove vieni?
Gli Stati Uniti.
Ah, okay.
Sì, quindi sono curiosa.
Sì,
perché stavo pensando, è veramente incredibile per me che il mio bisnonno è venuto da qui a Amalfi, quando Amalfi era un paese di pescatori, e oggi è un posto famosissimo nel mondo e è solo incredibile di pensare che ho origini da qui.
Ma parli anche molto bene italiano?
Diciamo un po', ma ogni
è molto difficile dall'inglese imparare l'italiano.
Sì. Ma grazie mille. Grazie mille.
Prego.
Grazie.
Buona giornata.
I'm really happy we stopped in there. I have to say the woman who worked there was exceptionally helpful. Grazie. Here is Domenico Cioffi's birth certificate. He was born here in Amalfi on August 28, 1890. His father was Giovanni Cioffi, and he was a marinaio, or a sailor. His mother was Maddalena Lucibello, and she was a filatrice, or a spitter. What's very interesting about Domenico's birth certificate is that his birth was actually registered by a midwife, Nicoletta Ottaviano. She registered the birth because his father was out of town. Now, because he was a marinaio, we can assume that he might have been out at sea, that he was working, and therefore was not present for his son's birth. The address listed on the birth certificate is Via Campo, but there's no number. We're gonna go and try and find that now. We are on our way to the library, and we're going to the library because that's where the Archivio Storico is, the archives. Now, they are only open on Monday, and we were not able to get an appointment. Dealing with public offices in Italy is an act of patience. So we are gonna go there and see if it's possible to get an appointment. If not, we're just going to go in the library.
We're outside the Biblioteca Comunale. We're gonna try and see if they're open and if we can visit it and try and find more information about this research. Let's see if they answer.
Chi è?
Buongiorno, volevo visitare la biblioteca se possibile.
Consultare, studio?
In realtà ero interessato alla sezione dell'archivio storico.
Allora, hai prenotato?
Io praticamente ho mandato una serie di mail, però mi hanno detto che non era possibile prenotare per oggi, ma solo tra una settimana. Io però sono solamente adesso in zona.
Ho capito, però se loro ti hanno detto che non potevi accedere, non lo so.
Non sarebbe possibile allora visitare la biblioteca?
Ti faccio entrare e parliamo da vicino.
Grazie.
We are inside of the library. We talked to the librarian. She said that she's gonna bring us some materials. I have to whisper because we're in a library.
What book are you trying to find?
I'm not even trying to find a book. I'm just so happy to see these. The Dewey Decimal System.
Allora, questo è sulla Valdica di famiglia Masciutane, che è diviso per cognome e cosa, però non è per qualcosa, ma se tuo nonno non è che ha avuto un ruolo importante nella storia di Amalfi, non compare nemmeno nelle famiglie, quindi questa è una ricerca, potevi fare all'anagrafe.
Well, unfortunately, I don't come from any Amalfi royalty or nobility.
The librarian also gave us some very useful information in order for us to track down the road where Marissa's great-grandpa was born and lived his childhood. We're now gonna set on a mission to go out and try and find the old Via Campo that today might probably have a different name. Let's go and see. Trying to find a street from the 1890s is a tricky mission all over the world because street names tend to change. Here in Amalfi, we saw that there is no Via Campo on modern maps, but we saw that there is still a Campo neighborhood that we want to go and check out. But we also heard that Via Campo might have become a different street with a different name that we want to go and see if it's actually still there or what it looks like today. One good example of street names changing is here, right in front of us in the center of Amalfi, of today's Amalfi. An ancient map that we got from the Archivio of Salerno actually names this road as Via Rua. A map that we saw in the library today in Amalfi names this road Via Capuano. That's also the name that you can see up here. Now, if you open any online map, it's gonna say that we are on Via Lorenzo d'Amalfi. So it's already tricky on the main road. Imagine how tricky it's gonna be to find the one where Marissa's great-grandpa was born. I think that this might be it. Salita. So we're going up San Nicola Campo. So we are in the Campo neighborhood.
We're finding a lot of these salite, but we don't know which one was the one of my great-grandfather yet. Still looking. It's not easy to find this area because we're working off like at least 3 different maps. We have the antique maps, another map that the librarian gave us, and Google Maps. So we're trying to find the true map somewhere here. Okay, this is how I know we're getting close. Look here.
Lucibello.
Lucibello, the name of my great-grandfather's mom. So we're definitely in the right place.
That's it. We found it. So this whole time we've been looking for Campo Castriota. We heard from one of our sources that to get to Campo Castriota we had to take Salita Campo Castriota, the stairs that we can see here, connecting the main road Via Capuano to Campo Castriota. Another source told us to take just this regular road that we took, parallel to Via Capuano, that leads to Campo Castriota. These roads have 2 different names today. One is Via Marini, the other one is Escalinata, which means a set of stairs basically, with the same name of the Campo. We don't know for sure, but we think that both these roads might have had the same name before. Via Campo, the via that we were looking for. Why? Because Via Campo makes you think of a via that leads to a campo, which is Campo Castriota here.
Ma non so se si ricorda, ma lei è di qui? Certo. Ok, perché praticamente sono qui perché il mio bisnonno, sono americana,
Sì.
era di qui, di questa
Di
zona
Amalfi.
di Amalfi, Via Campo.
È questa.
È questo.
Queste.
Wow, wow, incredibile.
Sì, è questa.
Sì, perché ho parlato con qualcuno dell'archivio storico
Ah, sì.
e ha detto che praticamente la scalinata forse era Via Campo nel passato, ma lei sta dicendo che praticamente è questa strada qui.
Sì,
Ok.
questo è abito qui.
Sì.
La mia strada.
Sì.
Campo diciamo è quello là,
Mm.
però si dice Campo Castriota.
Sì.
Questo tratto è proprio Campo Castriota.
Castriota.
Perché andando più avanti
Mhm.
trovi un'altra strada.
Mm.
Però se lei mi dice Campo è qua.
Ecco.
E com'è il cognome? Se vi posso dare una mano?
Sì, Cioffi.
Cioffi.
Sì, si chiamava Domenico Cioffi e il padre si chiamava Giovanni Cioffi e la madre Maddalena Lucibello. No, ma 1890.
Ah, allora
Sì.
No,
Leggero.
No.
no.
Dovresti chiedere a qualcuno con un anno in più di me.
Ma il cognome Cioffi è di
Ad
questo-
Amalfi sì,
Sì,
ce ne
sono-
sono, ce ne
Ok.
sono.
Abbiamo trovato la strada.
Sì, abbiamo trovato
Almeno.
la
La
strada.
strada che è importante, nel frattempo c'è qualcosa di positivo.
Grazie mille.
Prego,
Buona giornata.
altrettanto a voi.
Grazie.
So, we have it confirmed from a local. This is Via Campo. Unfortunately, on the birth certificate, there was no number, so I can't be sure exactly where the house was. But I do know that it was somewhere in this area, this beautiful, cinematic, quaint town with these beautiful white walls was once the home to my great-grandfather, and I feel so blessed and excited that a tiny, tiny piece of my identity, of my story, is here. In 1906, Domenico boarded a ship called the SS Florida in Napoli to come to America. On the ship manifest, he was the only person with the last name Cioffi, suggesting that he didn't sail with any siblings. He came to America with $6. Today, that would equal about $207. But to think, he came to America with only $6 in his pocket. It's unbelievable. Also on the ship manifest, it said that somebody left Domenico a ticket to his final destination. I don't know where that final destination was after New York because I just cannot read the writing. But the person who left him the ticket was somebody named Raffaele. After speaking with my dad, he told me that his grandfather, who is Domenico, had a brother named Ralph. So I'm making the leap that this Raffaele could have been Domenico's brother. For those of you who watched my video in Turi, you might remember that my great-grandparents' last name was Pagliarulo in the United States, but my great-grandfather was actually born Giovanni Pagliaruli. They maintained that change in the United States. For Domenico, on the ship manifest, his name was listed as Domenico Cioffo with an O at the end instead of an I. When he went to the United States, he did not keep that change. He maintained his original last name as Cioffi. For those of you that are doing genealogical research, remember, it's always important to try a couple different spellings of last names. If you don't find the exact same last name, don't give up. Just try a couple different variations of the spelling. I don't know a lot about the life of my great-grandfather when he was living in the United States. What I do know is that he met my great-grandmother, Annunziata Buonanno, later known as Nancy Cioffi, and they married in Meriden, Connecticut. They had 7 children, 4 boys and 3 girls. One of them, my grandmother, Madeline Graziano. My dad told me a few fun stories about his grandfather, Domenico. During Prohibition, he made and sold liquor. He later went on to become a bartender and then eventually opened his own pizzeria, Cioffi's Pizza, in Meriden, Connecticut. Domenico lived a good long life in the United States. He died when he was 73 years old on March 25th, 1964.
Marissa, good job speaking Italian today.
Thank you. I was really happy to be able to communicate with people to learn about my family history.
When traveling to a new country, it makes a big difference to speak the local language.
I can attest to that. The first year that I came to Italy, I didn't speak a word of Italian. Now that I've improved so much in my Italian skills, I feel that I can really be part of the community and have a much more authentic experience.
Marissa and I have learned many different languages, and we've used many different learning methods, such as grammar books, YouTube videos, even language apps.
And while those methods are great for familiarizing yourself with the language, I remember using them and often feeling stuck and unable to take my language to the next level.
That's why today we want to talk about a method that is going to take your language learning to the next level, the Uncovered Courses by Story Learning. Story Learning is a platform that will definitely be of interest to those of you who are trying to learn a new language. As a language teacher, I can say that their method is truly unique and efficient. They focus their entire approach on stories, and from there they teach you new vocabulary, grammar rules, how to pronounce new words, and many more linguistic aspects that are crucial when learning a new language.
I've used the Italian Uncovered course myself, and I really like that I can learn Italian in context, seeing the language used as Italians would use it.
We have a discount link in the description below that you can use to sign up for one of their Uncovered courses for $97 instead of their usual full price of $297.
If you want to take your language learning to the next level, click the link below. And if you end up trying this amazing language learning method, let us know. Send us an email or leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Quindi uno piccolo e solo prego.
Andiamo quello?
Anche tu?
Certo.
Ho una domanda, nella sorbetto di limone c'è il latte? No. Ok, quindi... Oh, perfetto. Quindi 2 cocchette di sorbetto di limone. Basta? Sì, sono 6. Quindi
Grazie, ciao.
Grazie.
After all this work, a little gelato break. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a sfusato amalfitano lemon that became a delicious lemon sorbet.
I don't know if you know this story, but the Greek mythology legend says that Hercules actually planted all of these lemon trees all over the island because Amalfi, his lover that died, had a sweet and fruity smell when she was alive, and he wanted her to rest eternally with the beautiful, sweet and fruity smell of lemon trees. My great-grandfather was just one of millions of Italians that left their home to go to the United States. And while the Amalfi of today is very different from the Amalfi that my great-grandfather left in 1906, I'm so happy that I was able to see in such a special way a part of my family's history. And I'm just very happy to know that in this beautiful land that is adored by millions of people around the world, my family has a small footprint here. Davide, thank you so much for helping me find my roots here in Amalfi.
Always a pleasure, Marissa. It feels like we're two detectives investigating some kind of family mystery. It was really fun.
And how about you? Have you ever thought about doing some genealogical research? Let us know what you find. And that's the video for today. Thank you so much for watching.
Till the next one. Ciao.
Bye.